net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated multifamily properties, businesses, real estate, commercial real estate, not using a 1031 exchange, so you can create and preserve more wealth, or help your clients, friends, or family do the same. Hey, we're also streaming on expert CRE secrets as well for those out there who are listening. And I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He is a new client of mine and becoming a friend. He is out of the great state of Colorado, originally basically from Colorado, but he's been in the multifamily investment space for some time, as well as the financial space, which we'll touch on as well. He's just going to share his story about the Deferred Sales Trust and this latest transaction for a property out of Colorado. Please welcome to the show with me, Ron Anderson. Ron, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you, Brett.
And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. Let's see. I was employed as an engineer for probably a dozen years or so, in sales for some of that. When I moved back to Colorado in 2002, I started buying some rental property. I bought my first small triplex, ended up getting my real estate license in the process. And through that, I had an offer to join a small group of people to purchase an 18-unit apartment building. My first 5 years in that partnership were as just a silent partner. And then after that 5 years, I decided to buy out my partners. So for the last 10 years, I've been the owner and manager with my wife of this 18-unit building. Along the way, we've also purchased a handful of other houses and condos. But about 2 years ago, we realized we were just getting too busy. We were working too hard. I didn't have enough time to play. And it was about that time, about a year ago, I ran across you on a podcast talking about the Deferred Sales Trust. And that got me thinking that there may be a way to make an exit out of at least the apartment building make a little bit more sense.
Absolutely.
Up until that time, I couldn't wrap my head around a good way to maintain the income and but cut my work days a lot shorter.
Got it. So the background engineering turned into real estate world to some small rentals, and then the 18 unit had some partners, bought the partners out, and then we're looking like, oh my gosh, maybe we're spending a lot of time and energy and stress with versus what we could be doing if we had an exit plan. Is that a fair summary so far?
Very fair.
Excellent. So I like the way you put it. You said too busy and working too hard and not enough play, right? Because one thing COVID's kind of taught us or reminded us of, that our time is short, right? Like you can't take this stuff for granted, with health or with time or with travel or with freedoms, right? And for that matter. And so we've got to live today and not take that for granted. So what was it about the day-to-day, either the management or the management of the management? What
Sure.
was it that you felt like, okay, yeah, this is taking up too much time and energy?
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 years ago, we started on an upgrade path. As units were starting to come available, we were just doing a kind of a big upgrade, flooring, countertops, just kind of the whole thing. And I think, and I've heard this story with a lot of other landlords, is that it just kind of snuck up on us. All of a sudden, every project was taking more and more time. Instead of just doing what was required to do the turns, we were now spending, a month or 2 months doing the upgrades. And yeah, it just kind of snuck up on us. All of a sudden, we were working all the time. At one point, I just got a little bit overwhelmed even, and my wife graciously jumped in and started to help me manage some of this. And then when she got involved, she kind of put her own twist on it, and we started converting some of our annual monthly rentals into minimum 30-day executive rentals and furnished rentals. And that kind of added a little bit to the management time, but it also boy, it really changed the financials of the building quite a bit to the positive. But yeah, it just kind of snuck up on us, to be honest. And my experience with property managers was not positive. And the net result of that is that between my wife and I, we ended up doing way too much of it ourselves. So yeah, I'm sure it's a common story, nothing unique there. I just wasn't smart enough to get out of our own way.
It's common for the entrepreneurial, for the real estate owner, for, really anybody who likes to build things and do things. Like we can, you know, it's exciting. It's good. And it's like more money. It can also be more problems, right? And more
Correct.
things. And it's like you go from okay, let's do like an upgrade or two to more upgrades to, oh my gosh, we can raise the rents quite a bit to now we can do Airbnb. And then, wow, this just keeps becoming an opportunity here, but at what cost, right? And sometimes we don't know
Correct.
that until we're already in it. So take us to the moment where you're like, okay, that's it. We're ready to exit. What was like kind of the deciding factor to take the next step to exit?
Sure. In that process, during that time, we were still buying a few properties. In fact, we were developing a property about 2 miles from our house where we could have a large storage building, a 4,000 square foot storage building, and we we're just putting a modular home on it. And so I was spending a ton of time on that. And I was just getting to where between my involvement in that and my wife's involvement with all the property management, that is just too much. So I started looking at, if we sold it, what would that look like? If we 1031 exchanged it, what would that look like? And I wasn't finding anything. While I was working on this development project, I came across a podcast that you were on with a real estate agent that I'd worked with out here named Kyle Malnati. And I remember listening to that podcast, and the light just went on. It's like, this is the solution that I've been looking for. We can still enjoy the the gains and be able to enjoy some income, in fact, more income, and just handle the taxes, defer everything. And so I came back home after working on that unit, put pencil to paper and opened up a spreadsheet and started researching things a little bit. Opened up a couple of browsers and started looking at some of your videos, and the numbers honestly just seemed too good to be true. So we started talking to a couple of real estate agents, started getting ready to do the final round of improvements on the building with an idea to list it this last February. In the fall, we made one more check-in with our agent just to see how the market was doing. And they told us that it was that it was another level of hot, and said, you don't have to do anything. Forget that list that we were talking about. Just put it on the market and we will get you more than top dollar. And so we did that and ended up closing in January. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
Amazing. So let's dive into some specifics of this deal, right? So people can kind of put pen to paper too on this and kind of walk through some of the mindset of what you were going through. So the sales price we have is $4.2 million, right?
Correct.
And this is a property. In fact, if you want to look it up, it's 1878 Vine Street. It's in Denver, Colorado. It's 18 units, right? Built in 64. About 13,000 square feet. About a Class C property.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly ones. In fact, only one studio, but it's getting really solid rents. And so, and now it had an adjusted basis of about $730,000, and it had a debt of about $1.75 million, right?
Correct.
But it had key here. It had a mortgage over basis of $1 million, and we're going to get technical right now. And this is important because, the Deferred Sales Trust is amazing in a lot of ways that we're going to talk about here, but also it doesn't solve every single problem. And one of the problems it cannot solve is what's called a mortgage over basis or debt over basis. And so we actually had to combine two DSTs. And by the way, this is why we're calling the show Exiting Denver $4.2 million multifamily using DST with the S at the end. S is because it's dual, right? So we're doing a partial Delaware 1031 exchange and a partial Deferred Sales Trust. And so are you ready to geek out, Ron, on this?
Absolutely. And actually, I want to just highlight one other part of my background, because this was a surprise to me. I also have an MBA from Pepperdine. I also have a master's in taxation from DU Law School. And I was unfamiliar with the debt over basis issue. So you educated me to that, but not only did you educate me to that as a problem, but you provided a brilliant solution. I was so impressed with. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and get into those numbers, that would be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ron, for sharing that. And this, see, I'm learning something new today. By the way, this is the first time that Ron and I actually have met on a Zoom video. We've only had phone calls, and so you guys are getting a chance to connect with us. Because Ron, I mean, this from start to finish, I think it's been about maybe 45, 60 days. I mean, we had to wait a little bit to get things with the 1031, but all that being said, let's dive right into it. Okay, so there's two things to solve for, right? First thing is the capital gains tax, right? So if you just take the $4.2 million property and you have an adjusted basis of about $730,000, that's going to give a gain of approximately, I'm doing the math right here, approximately $3.47 million. So there's federal of 20%. Right? There's Obamacare of 3.8. Then there's state of Colorado, which I believe is around 5%.
It's around 5.
Yeah, around 5%. Okay, and then you have depreciation recapture, which depending on if you've done straight line. I think Ron had just done straight line on this one, right, Ron?
I think so.
Yeah. And so we like to use collectively 20, 24, 29. Let's use another 3%. So about 32%. I'm sorry, 40, about 32%. That's right, 32%. Yeah. So 32%, but about $1.1 million liability, right? So if Ron
Correct.
does nothing here, and this is part of where people, before they find us, they're like, gosh, like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I want to retire. I want to be more retired. I want to spend less time with the toilets, trash, and liability, more time with my energy. But if I exit, it's going to cost me 1.1. Or I have to maybe do a 1031 exchange where I give up all the control and or to like a Delaware statutory company completely, and or I buy something that I don't actually really want to buy because I have to maybe overpay for something, right? All of these reasons why we like to say that the old 1031 is Blockbuster and the Deferred Sales Trust is Netflix. Okay, so these are things to solve for. However, we have what's called a mortgage over basis. So this mortgage over basis is about $1 million. Remember, the debt was 1.75. The basis is about 730. So it's about $1 million mortgage over basis.
Sure.
So Ron, talk through how we solve that mortgage over basis the best way you can with the Delaware, and I'll fill in as well.
Sure. And so just how we got to the mortgage over basis issue, about 5 years ago when I had an adjustable loan that reset that I could lock it in for 5 years at a time. So after the first 5 years of owning it outright, I pulled out about $850,000. And so that with the additional depreciation is how we ended up with that $1 million of debt over basis. So the way we solved the debt over basis problem was with a Delaware Statutory Trust. They put us into, I believe it's called a zero coupon DST that was associated with an Amazon warehouse. This warehouse, they borrow about almost 85% of the investment that they have in the warehouse. And so they're able to basically help me pay down. So if by putting money into that at that leverage, I only have to put in, I think I put in 180,000 that times, at an 83% LTV gets us to about $1 million of total ownership. Instead of receiving a income from this Delaware Statutory Trust, it goes towards paying off the loan. And so over time, my debt over basis is greatly reduced. It sounds like typically these deals go about 7 years before they end up selling the real estate portion off. And so in about 7 years, my debt over basis issue should be down to something that I can move into more of a regular Delaware Statutory Trust or a 1031 exchange type opportunity.
Yep. And let me bring that. And that was really well said, Ron. And let me bring a little bit more context too. So part of what the debt over basis piece that we need to solve for is what's called replacing the debt over basis, right? So this is part where the 1031 is our friend here. And by the way, we love 1031 exchanges, especially for these type of scenarios, right, where the deferred sales trust cannot solve for the debt over basis because the debt needs to be replaced. In the deferred sales trust, the debt is paid off at closing, and it's part of why it's the debt-free plan. But to the extent, since Ron refinanced at a certain point, pulled out tax-free refinance money at the time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's getting like recaptured, and the government's saying, hey, now you've had that, you've been using it. But if you don't replace that debt over basis, then you're going to pay ordinary income tax. So it's even worse than just capital gains tax rates. It's ordinary income tax rates. So it's like a double whammy there. So what we did was we had all of the funds at closing, net of the debt. So in this scenario, it'd be 4.2 million, and then approximately 1.75 minus some closing costs sent to the qualified intermediary. So about 2.45 million. Now of that, we have 45 days to identify and 180 days to close on the Delaware 1031 piece, which meant Ron allocated about $180,000, which is a really beautiful thing because Amazon is the tenant. And so the bank and the owner, they're willing to structure the deal to give maximum amount of loan to value, which these zero coupon deals are specifically designed for, okay, to solve this exact problem. Okay, so all this little amount of equity, which is 180, is going to replace the debt over basis, which is about $1 million. But then the rest of the equity can go into the Deferred Sales Trust. So you might have to rewind that a couple times, but I want to let you know you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get a no cost, no obligation consultation to go through your debt over basis challenges, as well as look at the Deferred Sales Trust for the option. And so fast forward now, Ron, we've taken care of that. You've bought that, and then what happened?
Okay, so we closed on the Delaware Statutory Trust. So the rest of the exchange, basically we had to wait for it to fail. So the rest of the money could move into the Deferred Sales Trust. That I'm leaving with your investment advisor. Bob walked me through what he's doing with that. And now I got my first check on Friday, or my first distribution from the DST on Friday for $13,000. So I'm seeing more income than I was seeing from the building, and the phone isn't ringing. So that's kind of the situation I'm in today.
So that's the outcome that you were hoping for so far. That's what it was. A year ago,
Correct.
6 months ago, you're like, if I can have it where I have less stress, less phone calls, and equal or greater, or maybe more cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Also, by the way, you're debt free, right? That debt is not in your name. It's with Amazon, right?
Correct.
And it's with the owners. I think it's Inland Property. I think that's who it was, right? And
Right.
one of the bigger ones for the Delaware deal. And excellent. So Ron, it leads to this question, right? What was the number one secret to overcoming that the Deferred Sales Trust? It's just too good to be true, Ron. Like everyone would be doing this. Like it's like, you would have already known about it, right? Your CPA would have told you about it. Like, I mean, you're a really smart guy. Like Ron, how are you just learning about it for the first time, right? Isn't it just too good to be true?
It doesn't make any sense that it isn't widely known. It was such a surprise to me. I mean, just looking at the raw numbers that we've talked about, the net proceeds from my sale were roughly 2.2 million after commissions and everything else. And my tax bill on that would have been, half of that. So instead of having $2 million in something that can be invested and spin off income, I would have had half of that. And those numbers just don't work for accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish with the sale of the property.
And it's part of our values right here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions is to give people the freedom of their time, their energy, their stress, their location, their financial plan. Because there's one thing to be, either real estate rich and cash flow rich, but then the time and the energy can be at a not as a healthy a place or as strong of a place or the place that you want to be. And so how do you exit? And this is part of this major shift in transformation of wealth. It's moving from, or transfer of wealth from baby boomers. It's about 32 trillion that's going to transfer in the next 20 years. And it's primary homes, commercial real estate, businesses. That's 50% of the total net worth of America. And you're seeing this major transfer. And so if you can have something that gives you tax deferral, liquidity, diversification, and the ability, because guess what, Ron, you might want to get back into a real estate deal in a couple of years when the deals make sense. So talk about the flexibility of being having the funds invested with a professional financial advisor, but also to be able to get back into real estate because you might find a deal in a couple of years. You might want to get back into it.
Sure. And just to highlight the other part of the Delaware Statutory Trust, even if I could have just paid $180,000 to make the whole tax issue go away, that would have been great. But the Delaware Statutory Trust adds another option that when that deal does close, and when the Amazon warehouse does sell in, say, 7 years, I now have an asset that'll probably be worth, likely double the 180 that I can exchange into another Delaware Statutory Trust, or I could do a 1031 exchange into another property. So instead of just, only paying $180,000 on what would have been a huge tax bill, it's another asset downstream. But you're right, the ability to partner with the DST to get into other real estate or other investments, that option is really interesting. And I'd explored it a little bit when we talked about doing some other crypto investments. And that may be something that I do want to get back into at a later date. But the flexibility is, it's really up to me to figure out how we can best use the assets that are in the trust.
You nailed it, right? And for those who are wondering, can you exit cryptocurrency, deferred capital gains tax, and buy real estate with the deferred sales trust? The answer is yes. Can you exit real estate and defer capital gains tax and invest into crypto? The answer is yes. It's flexible. The key is diversification, and the key is what do you feel comfortable with? And also, Ron filled out a risk tolerance questionnaire, and we work with a professional financial advisor to help do some planning and some strategic alliance there. And a strategic aligned with his goals there. So it's a team effort here, but the key is optimal timing. When does it make sense for you, whether that's for your lifestyle, whether that be for financial goals, whether that be for when deals make sense. The Deferred Sales Trust gives you that bridge, or gives you that safe harbor to wait in a tax deferred state. So here's the next question. What's the maybe the thing that you're most looking forward to when it comes to this? Or maybe before we go there, was there any surprises, Ron? Did we deliver on what we said we were going to do? Were there any surprises? Did you feel like, hey, I wish I would have known this? Any feedback for us on that?
There really weren't. The one thing that I as I learned more about the Deferred Sales Trust and how it worked, just the realization that, okay, I'm kind of in a lender role to the trust, and so the income that I get is ordinary income. So I'm not getting the same character of the income, so I'm not getting the capital gains treatment. But once again, it's small. It's a small price to pay for the overall benefits are so huge. I mean, having basically an extra $1 million to invest. I'm paying ordinary income on the money that I'm distributed. It's not even it pencils out really, really well in a spreadsheet. So it's really a fantastic option.
Yeah. And also to clarify too, you would pay capital gains tax if you dip into principal, right? If you dip into that 2.2, but yeah, any of the interest payments, but most of our clients just live off interest payments. They'll just pay ordinary income tax. You get a 1099 for that. You report it to your CPA. If and when you ever, I call it the golden goose laying the golden egg. If you ever dip in, you would pay capital gains tax at that given rate in that given year. So you keep that in mind. But yeah, okay. So what do you feel like life's going to look like after, after a couple of years? Do you anticipate getting into more deals? What's your take on the real estate market in general? I mean, Denver might be one of the hottest markets in America right now especially for multifamily investment real estate. So you sold at the high, we call it the Monday morning quarterback. If you get a chance to buy at the low, do you think that would be exciting? If you could buy something for, a discount in the future?
Yeah. We definitely paid a lot of tuition in our journey in managing rental property. And we still have, 11 doors, over 9 units. So we still have a bit. We're planning on doing just ordinary 1031 exchanges over the next couple years from what we have into more luxury vacation rentals at destinations where we want to spend time. So we're looking at Nashville and Florida and a place up in Breckenridge. So we're looking at getting rid of our local property management duties over the next probably 3 or 4 years and just continuing to trade time, just trying to get more and more time back. It's interesting. I'm not sure what things will look like in 2, 3, 4 years because we're going through that stress of, wow, we have time. This is there's a lot of anxiety when you're not used to having, when you're used to waking up and having your whole week planned, much less the day. And so we're really looking forward to seeing what that does look like.
Love that. That's my favorite part of this, and to be a small part of the team. I want to thank you and for trusting us, right? Because it's not easy to meet somebody for the first time and for hear about a strategy for the first time after you've built up all of this wealth for many, many, many years, and then to entrust them with that exit plan. And so people want to get started, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We also have our mastermind every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, where you can dive in and ask questions and talk about the deal close story of the week, and with the financial advisors, CPAs, people just like Ron that are doing this for the first time and learning about for the first time. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get started today. So if there's one thing you could say to someone, Ron, who's looking about this for the first time, right, just like you, what would you say to them right now if they're calling you and say, "Hey, Ron, should I do this thing? Like, talk me out of it, Ron. Like, why, what's the downside here, Ron?"
Sure. I think just because everybody's situation is different, I think that if anybody who's had real estate for quite a while and they have significant gains in this market, I don't think it's possible not to. All it really took for me was spending a little bit of time with a spreadsheet and just realizing that just what an incredible opportunity it was. Everything, and I really didn't touch on, you asked me a question earlier, if there are any, what were my impressions after going through the process, and did you guys deliver on everything? And unwaveringly, yeah, you delivered on everything that you said you were going to do. It was a really easy process. We had a handful of teleconferences with the financial advisor, with the attorney. I've talked to several people within your organization. Everybody's been very transparent, very knowledgeable, answered questions very directly. If I didn't understand it, I'd ask the question in a different way and I'd get an answer that helped me understand things better. So it was very easy. We hit our deadlines. It was everything that was advertised to be. And I'm just looking forward to seeing how the next bit of time pans out.
Amazing, Ron. I want to just thank you for sharing your story. It means a lot to jump on a camera and share this with the folks that are out there, but I think it's going to make a huge difference. I want to encourage you to keep using your engineer mind, to keep looking at the numbers, and to keep building some wealth for you and your family, and of course keeping the Deferred Sales Trust in mind for those other 11 rentals. But I hope you take those and you knock those other ones out of the park, and you come and you can add to them, which is a common question, by the way, people have, like, hey, can I add multiple trust or multiple assets to one trust? And the answer is yes. You can exit slowly out of different assets and roll it into one trust. You have multiple promissory notes. So it's a cool way to consolidate equity as well, if anyone's wondering. And you can check us out by going to YouTube, going to our iTunes channel. Ron, any last words for anybody and for me before we let you go?
No, just thank you very much. It's a great process, a great product, and it's really, boy, I can't imagine where our lives will be in a year versus where they would have been if I hadn't have run across you on a podcast. So thank you very much.
By the way, what podcast was it? I'm curious now. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was Kyle Malnati, his podcast. He's a local commercial and residential real estate agent here in the Denver market.
Yeah, by the way, thank you, Kyle. If you're watching this right now, Kyle's a rock star, multifamily and real estate agent in Colorado, Denver. I've done multiple deals with Kyle now, and so highly recommend Kyle if anyone's looking for a strong multifamily broker or realtor at all in anywhere in the Denver area. Well, Ron Anderson, thanks for being on the show, and I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also streaming on expertcresecrets.com, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated multifamily real estate businesses, cryptocurrency, so you can create and preserve more wealth. And so perhaps you can have a little more freedom in your life, whether that be time, energy, location, whether that be whatever that might mean for you. It's a little bit different for everybody, but I want to encourage you to always consider it's not just about cash flow, it's about tax flow, and how can you create a financial plan and using strategies like the Deferred Sales Trust to accomplish your goals. We would love the opportunity to serve you and to help you clarify that. You can just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, rate, review, subscribe to our iTunes podcast, rate, review, and subscribe, and share this with somebody who could help today. We so appreciate everyone